Welcome to the Cowboy Up Podcast, where talk is all about the West. This episode is brought to you by Golden Wings Horseshoes and produced by Cowboy Spirit USA. We're jazzed and stoked to introduce you to Kathy Zuckerman, the real Gidget. What's a Malibu surfer girl doing on the Cowboy Up Podcast? Well, even surfer girls can love horses, dude ranching, and the desert.
If you're in doubt about angels being real, I can arrange to change any doubts you feel. Wait till you see my Gidget. You want her for your Valentine. You're gonna say she's all that you adore, but stay away. Gidget is spoken for, you're gonna find that Gidget is mine.
So, Kathy, sadly, it's just me, Russell. No Alan today. He couldn't make it. So he gets the very big misfortune of missing Kathy Zuckerman, 25-year guest here at White Stallion, and the real Gidget. There's Sally Field, there's Sandra Dee, but the real Gidget is Kathy Zuckerman. How long have we known each other?
Hi, Russell. This is Kathy. My maiden name is Kohner, and my married name is Zuckerman. Sometimes I love the way you said it because it is Kathy Zuckerman. It's not, they put me down as Kathy Kohner Zuckerman, but I'm Kathy Zuckerman. So I believe that I met you 24 or 25 years ago.
At least, yeah.
At least. So.
When I had brown hair.
Well, I don't remember the hair, but I remember your two little boys, David and Stephen, and you drove me with a girlfriend in an old truck out to the Outdoor Desert Museum. And then you said, well, when you're finished, call me and I'll pick you up. And you drove me over to this amazing ranch called the Lazy K.
Yeah.
So being the girl from Malibu, so to speak, the hang ten surfer girl, I had never been to Arizona, and I had never been to a dude ranch. So I was quite smitten with the variety of the beautiful greenery, the cacti, the succulents, the mountains, the lack of people. So I, to use a surfing expression, I was stoked. I was stoked to be here. And obviously I'm coming back every year because it's a very special.
And your friend was Kathy, so
and
it was a couple of Kathys. Yes. And now you come with your husband, Marvin.
Yes, I come with Marvin. Marvin was a dean at Los Angeles Valley College. He's now retired, but the first 2 years that I came here, and you remember my friend Kathy, Marvin was kind of jealous, but he was working. And I really had a good time here with Kathy.
So you and Kathy, so if I get, you'll correct me.
Yes,
but I believe that you learned about White Stallion Ranch on a ferry in Norway when you met my brother and his wife, Kristen, who's from Norway.
That is 100% correct. My husband and I were visiting a professor in Norway who had taught at the college where my husband was working for a year, Jostein Selvig. And when we went to visit our friends in Norway, in Sandefjord, our host took us on a little ferry boat ride around the bay of Sandefjord, and I saw a young man sitting not too far away from me, but he was wearing a baseball cap. And I said to my husband, Marvin Zuckerman, I bet he's an American. So I went over and I said, hello, are you an American? He said, yes, I am. And I said, well, where are you from? And he said, well, I'm from Arizona. And I said, well, what do you do? I'm pretty loquacious and I ask a lot of questions. He said, I own a dude ranch. And I said, I've always wanted to go to a dude ranch. And he said, well, we come from White Stallion Ranch, so just call us up, which I did. I called up and I got Mrs. True on the phone. And Mrs. True said, Kathy, I would love to see you. I'd love to meet you, but don't come now. It's too hot in October. So I said, okay. Too hot, but then we came the following March to to the ranch. Our first visit was actually our son was making a film at the Arizona Inn.
Oh, great place, the Arizona Inn.
It was beautiful.
One of our favorite places.
So beautiful. And we rented a car and we drove here and we saw Kristen and she invited us to have lunch and she told us about the hike up Panther Peak. No, is it Panther Peak?
Yeah,
Panther
sure
Peak.
is.
And I loved it. I just said, I've got to go here.
So did Kristen take you up, or she just told you about it?
She told me about it. No, we didn't go up, but
Right.
We had lunch. That was very gracious of Kristen. And I don't believe I saw Michael then, but I saw Kristen. And we
Yeah.
stayed for about an hour, and then we left. And I said, okay, bingo, I'm going to come
Coming
back. To the
back.
ranch.
Leave Marvin working, and I'll come with Kathy.
Exactly.
So, Gidget, huge story in America, especially years ago when it was just everywhere. I'm sure there's a few people who don't know how the name Gidget got started, and it was with the surfing guys.
It was with the surfing guys because when I was 14, I started going to Malibu with my mom and dad on the weekends because they said, we don't want you to go to the movie theater on a Saturday afternoon. You come with us to the beach. So I was smitten with a sort of a lifestyle that was way off dead center. There was a language that was used by the surfers that I had not heard in my high school. I think I was one of 2 girls that was surfing. So there was somebody that lived in a shack at the beach. We called him Kahuna, which means big king. You're the Kahuna here at the White Stallion, Russell. Okay.
Never been called
You're riding horses.
Finally.
And I'm riding a surfboard.
Yeah.
So I told my dad that my dad was a screenwriter. My dad was an emigre screenwriter, and there's a lot of interest in emigre writers now.
What's that mean?
The emigres I'm a firstborn American.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
The writers, the artists, everyone that had to leave Europe because of World War II came over to America. So my dad got a job as a screenwriter. Columbia Pictures, or I believe so.
Yeah.
And I kind of said, I want to write a story about what's going on at Malibu. I mean, they're surfing, and they have this strange language, which I didn't hear in high school. Like, I'm so jazzed, I'm stoked, these are bitchin' waves.
That's great.
Like, give me your Boda bag so I can drink some wine. And so my dad and I was called Gidget. They all seem to have had nicknames. There was Kahuna, there was the Fencer, there was Gidget, there was Thrifty Phil, there was Scooter Boy. All the surfers sort of had nicknames. So,
wasn't one of them Moondoggy or something?
Moondoggy, yes, the love interest. In the story, there actually was somebody called Moondoggy. And then somebody told me he was called Boondoggy because he looked like he'd come out of the boondocks shaking his wet beard. But Moondoggy. Yes, and his name was Billy Al Bankston. In fact, he's a very just deceased famous artist in California.
Of what kind of art?
Not totally representational, modern art maybe, but Billy Al Bankston. He was called Moondoggy at the beach. Then I told my dad I wanted to write a story about surfer boys and me and somebody living in a shack all summer long. And my dad said, well, why don't you tell me, Kathy, about all this, and I'll write that story for you. So my dad wrote a novel in 3 weeks called Gidget. It came out in 1957. It was published by Putnam and Sons in New York. In 1959, well, right away the rights were sold to the movies. It was not the Gidget the novel became number 7 on the bestseller list of Los Angeles Times bestseller list. Number 8 was On the Road by Jack Kerouac. So it somehow resonated with people. The kids loved it. It's a great story. It's the sort of the clean, well-lighted place story, like Hemingway said. You know, it's nothing bad happened at the beach. She got to go surfing. She fell in love. The character Gidget, which means girl midget. So not actually that, but I'm pretty short. So Gidget means girl midget.
Go ahead.
And then Columbia Pictures bought the rights to the novel Gidget, and they made a movie in 1959 with Sandra Dee, Cliff Robertson, and James Darren. And then There was Gidget Goes Hawaiian with Deborah Wally and James Darren. Then there was Gidget Goes to Rome. It was very low tide in Rome. It starred a girl named Cindy Carroll. I believe that James Darren was also in that movie. But the first Gidget movie was pretty much the way it was in my life. The second and third movie were not, but they were very successful. And Gidget Goes Hawaiian with Deborah Wally. Deborah Wally sadly died very young of esophageal cancer. But she called me and she said, Kathy, I've done 70 films and everybody remembers Gidget Goes Hawaiian. And then in 1965, a young actress named Sally Field got the acting starring role in a TV series called Gidget. And there were 35 episodes, and the Gidget TV show with Sally Field ran opposite the Beverly Hillbillies in 1965. So it actually was not very successful. But the studio brought back the Sally Field TV show, I believe, in the early 70s. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. And Sally, most people today remember the Sally Field TV show. There was a Gidget Grows Up, Gidget Gets Married. They were TV movies of the week, but the Sally Field TV show.
So did those follow the Sally Field show?
No, they were prior to the Sally Field TV show. I'm sorry. There was Gidget Goes to New York with Karen Valentine. And then
no kidding.
Yes, and then there was Gidget Gets Married with somebody named Moni Ellis. And another actor that I found turned out to be a professor at Mount Holyoke College, but not James Darren. But the Sally Field show was very popular. And then fast forward, my parents died, and part of the estate were the literary rights to the story Gidget. So I, with the help of Deanne Stillman, who writes actually a lot about horses, who helped us get an agent, and we got the book reissued. And I believe that Russell True and Michael True were the first ones to get a copy of the Gidget book that came out in 2001, I believe, as a paperback. But It was the same story as my dad had written in 1957. And I remember being on the Today Show. I think it was the Today Show or the Good Morning America show. And after I was on the TV show, the agent in New York, who had gotten the Gidget reissued as a paperback, and actually in this paperback edition, they put pictures of me in this book, even though it is a work of fiction. But the readers like to see pictures of me because I'm sort of a fictional character come to life.
Well, you did some of this.
I did not act in any of them.
No, but you were on the beach, and you were in
yes,
Malibu,
absolutely.
and you were surfing.
Yes, I absolutely was on the beach. I absolutely was a surfer.
And you knew these guys.
And I absolutely knew these characters that are portrayed in a novel.
And you learned their language.
And I learned their language.
Yeah. So you were there. You were Gidget.
I was there. I am Gidget. And so the agent said if I didn't work hard at the reissue of the novel, that it would have a one-print run. So I decided that I was going to be Gidget again, and I learned how to surf again. I learned how to stand up on a board.
And when is this again?
So I would say it was 2001.
Yeah.
When the Gidget book got reissued, when I mailed, my favorite people in all the world got a copy of the book, and that includes the True family.
Well, thank you.
So what's interesting, it's been very successful, and now the book was translated into German, and it's been featured at the Frankfurt Book Fair. And the title is Mein Sommer in Malibu. My Summer in Malibu has a little different picture of me on the cover. It's going to be reissued in Spain and in Catalan. And, we're hoping that something, like the Sally Field thing will happen again. But we have to wait for that. But I'm excited about it. And, yes, it's true. I surfed. I surfed the Boo. That's what we called Malibu, the Boo. And today, I have for the last 20 years worked at a restaurant in Malibu called Duke's. So Duke's is named after Duke Kahanamoku, who was a famous Olympic swimmer. He brought surfing to Australia. he became the ambassador of Aloha in Waikiki. And so now I've been elevated to excellence. My title at Duke's Malibu is the ambassador of Aloha. So I live in Pacific Palisades, California, and I work at Duke's Malibu.
Do you still?
I do, 20 years. 20 years meeting and greeting the guests and often telling guests about White Stallion Ranch.
Well, thank
Where'd you go for vacation, Gidget? Oh, did you go to the horse ranch again? I said, yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Well, you know, Alan, I got another picture from our good friend Barb. She's got another buckle, and it showed this great picture, and Barb's in my age bracket, so she's not 25, and she's got the same color hair I do, and she's galloping through, shooting guns, killing balloons on her formerly retired horse, brought back to competition level, winning competition level by Golden Wings horseshoes. And of course, we talk a lot about Golden Wings because a lot of our horses are out on the trail thanks to those unique plastic shoes that provide concussion relief, flexibility, act somewhat like a pad if you want to have a pad on your horse's hoof. They are the best at goldenwingshorseshoes.com. How is this?
This is really bitchin'. I mean, you're getting into the groove of learning some of the surf language. I'm sure there's cowboy language and horse language, and but I am that girl from Malibu, so it's pretty low tide here in Tucson. I'm looking for the waves.
Yeah, we've been looking for them for a long time. Well, I'm not very cool, but I'm learning the language. I'm writing the stuff down. I couldn't surf, so that opportunity's eluded me. But so you're still at Duke's, and Duke's is in Malibu.
Yes.
So people can literally
walk through the door and say, "Is Gidget here?"
And say, what days are you there?
Right
Different
now
days?
I'm there Friday, Saturday, Sunday lunches.
Perfect
and I have a wall with photographs, and people always want to have a photograph with me, which I really think is fun. COVID was a little bit touch and go because I didn't want to hug everybody.
Right.
People wanted to hug me.
Were they open?
We opened and closed 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and now we're in full swing again. Although we don't have the Sunday brunch buffet, which is very popular at the time, but we don't have that back now. But we have a Duke's in La Jolla, one of our newer ones. We have Jake's Del Mar. We have Duke's Huntington Beach. We have Duke's Malibu. And luckily, everyone was saved in the Maui fire, which at Chemo's was the first restaurant, which was part of our TS restaurants. And so now I understand that we brought the chef over from Chemo's, and he's working in Malibu
from that Maui restaurant.
Yes, because so many people lost so much during the fire.
Sure.
So we are Maui. And I remember coming to work, and our fabulous manager, Mr. Chavez, I said, "Jimmy, you're flying the California flag in front of the restaurant. Right now, we need to fly the flag of Hawaii." And within an hour, we had the flag of Hawaii flying.
Oh, that's terrific. So good idea.
We were lucky that we didn't lose anybody, but that first restaurant did burn down.
Yeah. So Gidget is only they're all great, I'm sure, but Duke's Malibu.
Duke's Malibu, because I surfed in Malibu.
Right.
And we sell the Gidget novel there.
Oh, that's
so
perfect.
I know that I can get them there. I don't order them, and I don't have them at home, and I don't have them in the back seat of my car anymore. And I'm not pushing real hard, but I already have now 3 events lined up, and it's March for summertime, luau time. Think water, think surf, think outside. And that was thinking outside or looking outside is an expression. If you look outside, you're going to see another wave. you got to watch the waves. They're outside and they're coming in. And I'm looking outside here at a great place, so I hope you'll visit.
Yeah, I've got to come
Tucson and the Uptown Malibu.
I've got to go to Duke's and surprise you one day. So you'll sign some books when they come in, and
yes.
So I'm guessing everybody is like me. Because I think you mentioned 6 or 8 Gidgets, because started with Sandra Dee.
She's my favorite.
Okay, that was my question.
She was very, very fine actress, and her son lives in Point Dume, not too far from me. And Jimmy Darren, the actor, really liked her, and he loved working with her. Originally, Jimmy Darren was to be, I believe, Elvis Presley, and Sandra Dee was to be Debbie Reynolds. I think, anyway, those 2 actors were somehow bantered around to be in the film Gidget, but Sandra Dee was great. And the other day I met somebody at Duke's who was the mayor of the hometown in New Jersey where Sandra Dee came from. It's a very, very small world out there. Yeah. Everybody knows everybody else. So,
it's funny, I was in the Tumacacori bar in Tumacacori, Arizona, with my wife and in-laws, and just randomly they started talking about some people who'd been in the bar that week from Germany who were trying to find the locations that the book and the movie Bottom of the Bottle were from, which was down in that area because it was a real story, but it was filmed at White Stallion. Part of the final scenes were all shot at White Stallion. And it just, what a weird circle. People from Germany wanted to see where Bottom of the Bottle was, the area it was written about, and yet I'm sitting there being told about it, and the scenes were shot here. So the mayor from New Jersey, where Sandra Dee runs into the real Gidget at Duke's in Malibu.
There was a mayor's conference, and they all came for lunch at Duke's.
That's funny.
And another one of my friends that I've met at Duke's, Mike Lanning, comes every year to Tombstone to be in a conference where they give papers about the history of Tombstone.
Wow.
And has run into your mother-in-law and other members of the family and said, do you know Dave Cole? He's a wonderful guest here and a longtime friend. So
everybody in Tombstone, he's like the unofficial mayor of Tombstone, I think now. So who's your second favorite Gidget?
Well, I'd have to say me.
Well, you're everybody's favorite. You're the real thing. Who was the next best?
Well, I think that Sally Field did an amazing job of playing a character named Gidget. Though the character that Sally Field portrayed was a lot more on dead center. Gidget Kathy was pretty out, not on dead center, and I think that's what made the show sort of the story.
How were you off center?
Well, I wasn't a member of the band in high school, or I was wanting to surf. That's all I wanted to do. There were 4 kids in my high school that wanted to surf, and I was at the beach like every single day as fast as I could get there. Sally Field was more popular with her peers. She worked the band. She also actually did one of the segments of the Sally Field show was called The Great Kahuna. My dad wrote that script and he was nominated for an Emmy, and she learned how to surf. She took surfing lessons with a young man named Daryl Stolper, and she claims that she just loved being Gidget, and that was her very, very first role ever. But when guests come in, they remember Gidget as Sally Field. They don't recall Sandra Dee anymore. Remember, I'm aging.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid and before I knew you, and Gidget was a big deal. I think they'd call it a franchise today. It's a big deal. And a lot of the people who had an opinion, and that was most people, they really liked Sandra Dee. And it was, I didn't know about it, until I knew you. I didn't know about all these other ones. It was either Sandra Dee or Sally Field, and And it's hard not to like Sally Field.
I know, she's terrific. And she's littler than I mean, she's very petite.
Is that right?
I'm not petite after I spend 10 days at White Stallion Ranch.
Oh,
Okay.
You're not real tall. And you're not otherwise. But Sally Field, of course, and then she was Flying Nun and then Academy Award winner. So she's had the big,
actress.
Diverse career. But so it was funny because when I was young, people, Sandra Dee, so you were less they mainstreamed Sally Field.
Yes, I was.
And you were less that way.
Yes, I was.
You were all about getting on the surfboard.
I was all about getting on the surfboard. And, I mean, what do they use that term today? Tomboy? I mean.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, I do, but I'm
I'm
not young either.
I got trunks made. I wanted to, surf trunks and went down to Malibu as often. And because it was like my third place. You have school, you have home, but then I had the Boo. We called it the Boo Malibu, whereas today they have AA meetings sorry.
Well, there was a great article. I don't know. It was it an LA paper, and they kind of revisited you guys, and they had pictures of you and some of the others that were. What paper was that in?
Well, Russell, there have been several.
No, but I mean, you sent it to. Oh, I know there's tons of
sent it
them,
to
but
you.
there was a not so long ago revisit, and it doesn't matter. But it talked about a lot of those guys that you were out there surfing with, and.
Well, sadly, a lot, they were a little bit older than me.
Sure.
So sadly, we've lost a number of them.
Right.
They're aging, and it's hard for me to realize that. I mean, I have to, my guys that surfed at Malibu, a lot of us are not here anymore because they were a little older than me.
Sure.
So I was 15 and 16, and I have been working. So the only thing that I had from those surfing days are my diary pages. So I kept a diary, and I wrote down every day who was at Malibu, what the surf was like, what movie I went to see, who I went to visit. So I've been working with a writer named Ken Lezebnik, who teaches at Long Island University. He loves the diary pages, and he said, we got to put this together. So we've put together.
You're working on that now.
But we're working on it now. We've had 4 rejections so far. But, we're going to keep riding that wave. Because it's cute, and there's a lot of photographs of me in there, and it's my actual diary. I didn't keep surfboards, I didn't keep bathing suits, but I kept my diary pages.
That's great. Well, I mean, we talked to a lot of authors on Cowboy Up, and once in a while somebody will say, "Oh, I sold that before I even wrote it," but almost everybody else says, "Oh, I tried this and they got rejected, and I tried again, and I went here and I went there, and then huge success." And I saw These Is My Words, which is a pretty famous novel based on a real story, and she talked about the real challenges she had getting that book published, and now she's huge success. So it'll happen.
It'll happen. It'd be fun. I mean, I think it's pretty much a ocean type story, but it is the actual, what I did and what the surf was like and who was there.
Right.
And to top it off, the topping, the coup de grace is that my love interest from the days at Malibu, he lives in Tucson.
No.
Yes.
Still.
He's
here now.
moved here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's
here
now.
Here. He's
wow.
up near here in a community, and
wow.
I said, "Oh wow, Bill, that's amazing." So he's
now you
alive and well and doing fine and living in Tucson.
Well.
So there's something wonderful about Tucson, right?
Oh, I've never wanted to be elsewhere. Okay. Occasionally, once in a while, in the deep, darkest parts of the summer, I think, well, I could be somewhere else for a week. But I love Tucson, and well, it's great. Thank you for this, and
mahalo.
And yeah, that's
and
thank
aloha.
You. Yeah.
And I hope your guests will come see me at Duke's, and I'm going to send guests to the White Stallion Ranch.
Well, I just talked to somebody long time and frequent guest here, and she said she's put together a month-long trip. She's going to journey around and visit some of the places we've talked about on Cowboy App. So now I know people are going to be up getting you to sign a book at Duke's in Malibu.
I'm stoked.
Perfect.
Jazzed.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for joining us. In the words of Super Dudes, that was a bitchin' episode. Thanks for riding the waves with us, and thank you Stan Houston and his production company. Next week we saddle up Western again, or rather English, as the conversation turns to ponies and polo. Until we meet again, I'm Lynn Weezy Sneed, reminding you to sit tall and ride safe.
She acts sort of teenage, just in between age, looks about 4'3". Although she's just small fry, just about so high, Gidget is the one for me. A regular tomboy, but dressed for a prom. Boy, how cute can one girl be? Although she's not king size, her finger is ring size, Gidget is the one for me. If she says she loves you, you can bet your boots she loves you. If she says she hates you, that can also mean she loves you. It very well may be she's just a baby speaking romantically. If that's a bad feature, I'll be the teacher. A Gidget is the one for me. She's not much on glamour, and she should improve her grammar. Still I sigh and stammer, and my heart beats like a little old hammer. Strictly from Dixie, face like a pixie, shorter than girls should be. The rest of the shipment, standard equipment, just a doll in dungaree. The Gidget is the one for me.